Conor, good to chat to you ahead of the World Cup. How have the last few weeks been?
Really good, yeah. I suppose for us it was about trying to take off from where we left it in the Six Nations, and getting up to pace again with where we were. So you'd like to think we had a kind of a good starting point to progress from. So yeah, everyone came back into the camp buzzing and looking forward to what's to come with a huge opportunity ahead of us. So been really testing and tough, but like I said, the excitement is there. So lads are enjoying the hard work and and getting into games shortly.
Was the message from Andy and the coaches when you came back that that was great, lads, now we got to go and get better?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think everyone's open about that kind of chat and the tone of it, and even during the Six Nations, I've been around a while now, and this is the first time, we had a really good chance of a Grand Slam, and we were lucky enough to go ahead and win it. And even I remember after the game, and it wasn't taken away from the Grand Slam, but it was like, I remember Johnny talking about where we can go and the next level. And even though we beat England at home with so much on the line and a massive pressure game, we didn't play that well. We actually kind of stuttered through the game a little bit, which was disappointing. And I suppose that's where the mindset of the group is now, that we celebrated that massive Grand Slam at home is something you dream of, but in the back of most people's minds was like, gee, we actually didn't play our best game, and it would have been nice to play our best game at home for the final. But I suppose that's where we're at, I think, as a squad and management at the moment.
How do you actually improve in real terms? Is it doing what you've been doing better, or adding new strings to your bow?
A bit of both, I would say. Not giving you a short answer, I suppose. Every game, let's take for instance the Six Nations just gone, probably the most recent one. Every game we finished, we had loads to improve on. We'd like to think we have a good understanding of how we want to play and how we see games going and trying to control games. But plenty of examples throughout every game in the Six Nations where we were a little bit off, and I suppose at this level it's really small margins that make the difference. So it's about taking small opportunities. In international rugby, the opportunities are probably smaller than there would be in club games for scoring or whatever. So we're always trying to push that, and there's always stuff you look back on in a game that you might have won or lost or whatever, and things to improve. So we have an idea of how we want to play, and to see the perfect game probably never going to happen, but it's about pushing as hard as you can for that.
The Munster contingent came into the camp with a bit of a spring in their step. How nice is that to have a trophy come off the back of a trophy like that, and do you think you as players, the Munster group in it, like that, it has given you a little bit of a lift coming back into the Ireland setup?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose being in the Ireland setup, no matter where you're from, whatever province, and Leinster going so well over the last number of years, but I think being in the squad when we haven't won trophies at Munster, you feel well respected, and it's a completely different group. But I suppose personally for us Munster lads, it was more of a club thing, and the drought we had been on for 12 years, just to get the monkey off the back kind of thing, and it was more a relief. But probably one of my more enjoyable wins and lifting the trophy after that length of time. I suppose I came into the Munster squad in 2011, and we won the Magners League as it was back then, and I was 22, I think, and I was like, this is obviously par for the course. This is what it's going to be like every end of season. We're going to be lifting trophies and celebrating. And the graft that went into so many near misses and heartbreaks along the way, and to get a win. I'm particularly proud of the way we did it. We had 6 away games on the trot in the lead into that final. So it was more for the Munster career. It was a nice feeling to kind of finish the season like that after such heartbreak, and then obviously a little bit of a pep in your step as well, naturally.
And then you went away and got married, like about half a dozen of the other lads as well. So we're sending a squad of old married men over to France.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, you are one of the elder statesmen, for want of a better phrase. Do you feel like it?
In ways, like you feel just because this group is so tight, and I suppose you have a bit of a responsibility to let like the less experienced or the younger lads kind of know what you're thinking, or I'd like to think we're really open anyway, no matter what age you are, young or old, that there's however many scrum halves in the group at a certain time. There's 4 of us during pre-season, and being really open with chatting to each other and not keeping things from each other. That I wouldn't say I've ever seen it happen, but it can happen in squads where people in the same position wouldn't share that much. But this seems to be, everyone's genuinely striving to win the game at the weekend, and everyone's helping whoever might be starting, coming on or not involved, or whatever the case may be. So and like being an elder statesman, I suppose you do have a responsibility to let people know what you're thinking, because people might be wanting to ask a question and they mightn't feel comfortable or whatever, so it's probably on you to help share and help bring people along.
And I'm sure you've seen lads who were in the same boat as you back in 2011, and everybody remembers that extraordinary this time of that campaign where you burst into the scene in the warm-up games, and by the end of the tournament you had the jersey. What do you remember about that experience back in 2011?
Seems a long time ago. I suppose it was that Munster running where we won the Magners, and I managed to get into the team towards the end of the season, and then getting into camp. And honestly, I was just young and just taking the experience for what it was. I was just enjoying. As soon as I got over going into camp and meeting like the O'Driscolls and all these guys that you've watched for so long, and getting comfortable being in the same room as them, and after a while I suppose you kind of said to yourself, geez, I'm actually able to train in this environment or at this level. And I was just enjoying it, and I was hoping to get a cap in the summer games. And then even the feedback from the coaches was like, you're training well, but we might see you next season or whatever. And then bit of a whirlwind to find myself in the squad. And that World Cup was ultimately disappointing, but my own personal journey from where I started then to come home, having played a significant enough role in the tournament with Ireland, kind of kick-started my career, I suppose. It was really fun. Again, all new experiences for me back then, and I wasn't really thinking too much about where I was. I was just enjoying every kind of moment, and it's a really fond memory personally.
2015 of the World Cups you've been at, is that the one where it was more a misfortune that kind of did for Ireland then? Everybody remembers the injuries that sort of really hamstrung the campaign.
Yeah, I would say so. Because we had gone well in the previous couple of seasons in the lead up to the World Cup. We had a great pre-season. I think we went pretty well in the group stages, and then beat France, and that's when we had all those, I think 5 or 6 pretty significant injuries through the spine of our team if we go through those individuals. And I suppose at the time you probably would have said no, we probably should have had the calibre to beat the opposition or Argentina in the quarter-final. But it's difficult when you lose that many people, that many important people. Paulie, Pete, I think Johnny got injured, Tommy Bowe, there's probably a couple more missing, and when you lose that amount of people, it's definitely going to affect the team. And while I still thought we had a really good chance of beating Argentina, we got off to the worst start in that game, and we were probably caught napping a little bit. They kept beating us on the edge. I remember in that game we kept conceding line breaks and made it really hard for ourselves. So I would say taking that many people out of a team is going to be really hard to recover from and perform in a week's time. But I'm not saying we couldn't have done it, but that was definitely a factor.
And then obviously the disappointment of 2019 when the expectations were so high. For you personally, you bore the brunt of criticism at that time, and yet you have bounced back in a really impressive way. How satisfying is it 4 years on to be contending to be in the squad, to be involved in a Grand Slam Six Nations campaign after going through such a difficult time professionally? I'm proud of the way I've responded, really, and the last few years have been probably the most challenging of my career, and I'm happy with how I've dealt with that and stuck with it. And going back to that 2019 World Cup, I remember probably myself and Johnny got the brunt of the
criticism, not that you were looking at it, but you would hear, and your family would tell you, your friends would tell you, and I suppose especially in our positions like 9 and 10, and all the lads and scrum halves in here and out halves will tell you that things go really well. People will probably overhype you about your contribution to the game and how you affect it, and then when things don't go so well, you probably get overly criticised, and I've seen that throughout my whole career. I know there's certainly been times where I've thought I've had a pretty average game, and then people might blow you up a little because it was a really good win, and maybe the team went really well, and it always went back to the people in the dressing room, your teammates and the coaches and people who actually know how well you're going and how hard you're training, and they're the opinions that ultimately matter. So I would say, honestly, looking back at the 19 World Cup, I wouldn't say I played particularly poorly. It's just we as a whole group didn't perform to the level we were supposed to, but I think naturally decision makers or people in those positions will always get the brunt of it, and that's something I learned early in my career, that never to get too bothered by the outside noise, because again, it's what people see inside the four walls.
And so we go into this tournament, and look, expectations are high. That's because of everything that you as a squad have done over the last couple of years, and yet the quarterfinal hoodoo thing is something that people outside the camp will talk about. How much does that weigh on you within the squad? How much is it talked about, getting beyond the level that Ireland has not been able to get beyond in previous World Cups?
Honestly, it doesn't. It's never mentioned. I think World Cups are every 4 years. The team is completely different. It's not talked about. I think where we're at the moment, and hopefully we continue to be at that level. We would hope to have quite high expectations of how we can play and where that type of play can get us. So I think we really focus on ourselves, and if we perform to close to the top of our ability, we have a good idea where that will take us. And that hoodoo thing will definitely, like you said, it'll be talked about outside the group, and it'll be a big talking point. But honestly, where this group is at the moment, and I don't think it's not a cocky thing. It's just what we've done over the past few years. I think we have expectations on ourselves now, where you could get to a quarter final, and whoever you come up against, like, you might not be good enough on the day, or else you could get in a run, and we could play to the best of our ability, and we could breeze through one. But it's not something that we're looking at and going, geez, that's never been done before, or because I suppose this team has done stuff that hasn't been done before. So we're very much focused on the team now and how it is.
Do you believe that you could win the World Cup?
Yep. Very hard thing to do. I've been to 3 of them, been around for long enough, and very hard thing to do. And it's a really tough campaign, and you're in camp for a long time. I think us being in camp, you hear it from most players, that everyone loves being in camp in this environment. You're away from home for a long time, and I don't think that's going to be an issue here. We will see our families from time to time, and this group gets on really well. We're as close a squad as I've ever been involved in, so that side of things will be fine. And look, they're really hard. Things can happen, injuries, form, whatever, but we have to have confidence in where we're at as a squad right now, and what we've done previously. Obviously, we have to do it now, which is the important thing. But I suppose you take confidence from what you've done in previous years. And
if all going well, I know there's a few twists in the road to come before then, and selections, etc. If you do join that 4 World Cup group, it's a very select group. That would be a very proud moment, I'd imagine. What would you think if somebody had said to you as a kid growing up playing, kids rugby, that would happen?
I wouldn't believe them. Firstly, I don't think players think of going to 4, and I suppose if it does happen, brilliant. When you look back on your playing days, that'll be something you'll be really proud of, and kind of sneaking in 2011 might help my cause there. But no, I think proud of yourself, and I know my family would be really proud if that is the case, and you do get named to go and represent Ireland, and on the world stage. And I suppose having been at 3 World Cups, they're so big. They're genuinely, like, they're bigger than any Six Nations or any internationals you play, it's such a big event, and you know, getting to represent your country on that level with so many people watching it is really exciting, and something I'd be really proud of.
Last one then, Conor. I know I've kept you, and I really appreciate it. Do you have a World Cup memory from before you played as a kid, watching tournaments growing up, that you really said, "Oh God, I remember that"? Stands out.
Yeah, I do. I remember Quinny's try against Argentina when it was, he needed to score that for, was it rankings or to get into the, I don't know, it was really important, and he dislocated his shoulder. And then, the 2003 one, when you were just a young fella loving rugby, no matter who was playing, and seeing, Johnny Wilkinson slot that drop goal was an iconic moment. And I remember my uncle was working with an airline. He was on a trip down there and got tickets to the final, and he'd never seen a rugby game in his life. And he had pictures of the drop goal going over. So big moments like that, and like I said, when it's on a world stage, moments like that they'll be never forgotten. So exciting.
Brilliant, Conor. We'll hope you make a few now in the next few months.